Hey buddy, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and this is going to be an in-depth guide for Nami. So first off, special thanks to Corbin for sponsoring this guide. He generously donated $25 to get this Nami guide out there. I do release support guides from time to time. I'm going to try to do one every week or two, but if there's a particular support that you really want to see an in-depth guide for, you can expedite that process. $20 to $25. I'll do anything you want. I'll even do non-supports if you want. So if you want to see me, try to create a guide for a particular ADC or a jungler or whatever, I'll do all the research and I'll make the best guide that I possibly can for that champion. So if you're interested in that, just email me at thestrategyprofessor@gmail.com to set that up. But let's go ahead and get in here. So you can find this Google Doc in the description. So we're going to go through a bunch of different things about Nami. We're going to start off with why are utility supports in general strong? Why is Nami a good pick? And then how to comparisons with Nami to other champions. And then how to lane with her. And then how to team fight with her. And I have a couple of examples from a recent Nami VOD that I don't remember if I've released this one yet or not, but it'll be coming up soon in the Nami playlist. And like I said, you can access this in the description as well as some other useful information about the channel. Like when I stream, which is 8:30 Monday to Friday Eastern Standard Time. Then often on the weekends as well. If you want to drop in, ask a few questions, hang out. We're building a wonderful community. And of course, just watch some great support action. Okay, let's go ahead and get in here. All right, so why are utility supports strong? So this is very similar to what I talked about in my Lulu and Janna guides. So utility supports are really strong right now for several reasons. First of all, the ranking system is becoming a bit more consistent. So what that means is the people that don't know how to play with autofill, the people that can't play unless they have their 3 friends on their team from the dynamic queue last season, the people that were boosted, all these people that were somewhat left out, or they were irregularities when solo queue resumed at the start of the season, those people are lower than they were last season. So if you're moving up, you're going to run into those people less and less. Now, it still does happen, but I'm just saying it's not as much of a circus as it was in 7.1. It's 7.6 by now, and a lot of people are finding they're closer to their true elo at their true potential right now, regardless of where they initially got placed at the start of the season. So it's becoming a bit more consistent. So it's less likely you're going to get that 0-10 top lane than it was in 7.1. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm just saying that mismatches in the queue system are going to be a little bit less probable than they were earlier, which means you can play utility supports. Because the thing about a utility support, if one lane gets completely devastated, it's like 0-15 or something in one lane, they might be able to snowball that advantage depending on which champion is, and just end the game before utility supports can really start taking off with their scaling with the redemption and the locket. So it also brings me to my next point. The game is slowing down quite a bit, and there's more tanks and less snowball. So they've nerfed a lot of the lethality junglers. They've nerfed lethality itself, which hurts the early game AD carries that really relied on their abilities. So like Misfortune, Jhin, and people like that are getting picked a lot less, and you're seeing a lot more champions that need time to scale, like Ezreal, Caitlyn, Twitch, Vayne. All of these are coming more back into vogue, and they really need a couple of items before they take off. So that means the game slows down and utility supports get stronger because now they have time to complete their redemption and their locket. So and just overall in other lanes, like people are picking more tanks top lane. It's more common to see things like Renekton, Shin, Malachi and Poppy a little bit less right now, but you're just not seeing as many hyper snowbally type of champions. Like there's not as many Quins or Pantheons. Mid lane, there's less LeBlanc type of champions. There's less Rengars and Kha'Zixes in the jungle. There's more Gragas, Zac. Graves is still a big problem, but he gets banned a lot, thankfully. But anyways, game slowing down, utility supports are stronger in that environment. Champions like Zyra are still strong in the right composition, but they're not as strong all the time because people are just doing less damage. And so if Zyra can't kill somebody with her all in because no one has enough damage to follow up and kill them, it's going to be a problem. Also, you're not going to get as much gold off of as many kills and fast towers bot lane as you used to be able to get with Zyra. And by the time utility supports like Janna, Nami, Lulu, once they get their locket and redemption, it's really hard to burst through that as an AP support unless you have a whole lot of gold. So The AP supports are still okay in the right circumstances. Tanks are still in a really bad place, but APs are okay. But utility supports are really starting to shine now in 7.6. Okay. Yep, favor utility supports because they excel at longer team fights. Redemption plus Locket are must-buy items. If you haven't seen my 7.6 tier list video, I went ahead and linked it here, and it'll just kick you off right at the 45-minute mark, which is where I talk about why. But I give you a bunch of math on this, and I show you the TLDRs. Redemption is 500% efficient, Locket's 375% efficient, and Ardent Sensor's 365% efficient. And nothing else is even close. And what does this mean? Well, in terms of redemption, in the best case scenario with redemption, you're getting 8,000 gold, which is equal to about 17 kills worth of gold off of the gold efficiency of that item. And even if you only hit 2 people instead of 5 people with the redemption, so you don't get the miracle redemption where you hit everybody, even if you only hit a couple of people, which is pretty common, then it's still going to be over 200% efficient, which most of the damage items and even a lot of the utility damage type of items are, as we'll see here in a second, like Athene's Unholy Grail, Eye of the Watchers, Morello, all of these things don't crack 200%. It's not even close most of the time. And so Redemption, Locket, and Ardent Sensor are just like astronomically better than other items you can get right now most of the time. And utility supports just use these items better. I mean, yeah, you can run Redemption and Locket on things like Nautilus or Tom Kench, and in fact, you have to run it on those. But they're just not going to have very many heals and shields that benefit other people in their kit, and they're not going to have other steroids as well, like Janna and Lulu give off. And they won't have the early game pressure of someone like Nami. And they don't have the option, really, of going Ardent Sensor because they can't heal and shield other people. So that really hurts. They have to go Knight's Vow, which is not nearly as good as Ardent Sensor. And I talk about all of that in this video. If you want to see the math and sort of the theory behind it, what all that means, just click right there. It's about 20 minutes of... I mean, the whole video is like 2 hours, the tier list video, but this little section's only about 20 minutes, and I start you right at the 45-minute mark where I talk about it. So if you want to jump right in and check that out, if you're curious, then go ahead and look into that. Another thing about why utility supports are so strong is how resistances work. If you haven't seen my Janna or Lulu video, I explain it in both of those, but I'll just touch on it just really quickly here, just as a refresher. Each 1 point of armor is 1% more effective health against AD of the same type. The same is true of magic damage. So for example, if you have 1,000 HP with no armor, then it takes 1,000 physical damage to kill you. However, if you have 1,000 HP with 100 armor, it's going to take 100% more damage to kill you. So it's going to take 2,000 physical damage to kill you. So that's the easiest way to think about it, is every armor equals 1% of more damage that's necessary to kill you of that type. So that's just the easiest math you can do. And there is no diminishing returns on this. So, you know, if you have 300 armor, then it's going to take, what, 4,000 damage to kill you if you have 1,000 HP and they're doing physical damage. Now that assumes no armor penetration, all that kind of stuff, but just easy math. So shields and healing scale with resistances. That's important to keep in mind. Damage gets blocked by resistances, but shields and heals get amplified, in effect, by resistances. So for example, if Janna shields a person for 300, shields you for 300, you have 100 armor, it's going to take 600 physical damage to break that shield. Not 300, 600, because the armor is going to block damage on the shield also. Now, there are some games where armor doesn't apply, or resistances don't apply to shields. League of Legends is not one of those games. It does apply to shields, and the same is also true of heals. So, for example, if Nami heals you for 200 and you have 100 armor, it's going to take 400 physical damage to cut through that 200 shield that 200 heal that she just gave you. Conversely, if you deal 300 damage with Zyra and the enemy has 100 magic resist, the enemy's only going to take 150 damage. So that means that, in effect, healing and shielding is often 4 times better than damage because they benefit from resistances. So just think about it this way. Let's say that, you know, Nami heals you for 500. You have 100 magic resist. It's going to take 1,000 magic damage to cut through that 500 heal because of the magic resist. On the other hand, if Zyra deals 500 damage to you, or to a champion, and they have 100 magic resist, then it's only going to deal 250 damage. So, same scenario, heal versus shield, same amount of magic resist. One's going to deal 250 damage, one's going to take 1,000 to cut through. So that's where I get the 4-to-1 number from. So, basically, utility items and just healing and shielding scale much, much harder than damage in most scenarios. Okay. And then if you want to know more about stats and itemization and how resistances work and the relative gold value of different stats and all kinds of neat things about why you should itemize different ways, check out this video. It's a bit older now. It's about 3 months, but most of the stuff that I say in there is still very relevant. ZZ Rock Portal got gutted after I made the video, so don't get ZZ Rock Portal anymore. But everything else that I talk about in the video is still really, really solid. Okay. So itemization for supports is also much cheaper. So if you go full itemization on someone like Nami, let's say you get Mobility Boost or Ionian, whichever ones you want to get. Mobility, Redemption, Ruby, Locket, Ardent. Total tab for 5 items is about 9,000 gold, 9,100 gold. And that has a lot of synergy. So you get plus healing, and the plus healing also applies to Redemption and Locket if you didn't know that. And the Redemption and Locket heals also proc Ardent Sensor. So if you hit 5 people with a Locket shield, all of them get the Ardent Sensor buff. Or you hit 5 people with Redemption, all of them get the Ardent Sensor buff. They also all get the armor and magic resist off of Windspeaker. So there's a lot of synergies between all of these items. They work very, very well together. Okay. Zyra's items, on the other hand, Sorcerer Boots plus Eye of the Watchers plus Leandry plus Void Staff plus Abyssal, which is kind of the standard 5 item for Zyra, is going to cost you 11,800 gold. So it's almost, what is that? Let me see. I don't even have to tell you almost. You know, you're looking at about 23% more gold necessary to pick up, or this is 23% cheaper, I should say. The utility itemization is about 23% cheaper than the Zyra itemization. And most AP supports have something that looks like this. You know, all of their items are going to be somewhere between like 2,700 and 3,000 gold. Almost all of the utility items are going to be somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 gold. So it just makes sense that it would be about, 25% or less cheaper. So that means that, by the time you get your 4th item, perhaps, as an AP champion, then they're already going to have their 5th item, most likely. So that means they're going to hit their power spikes faster, and they're going to have a lot more synergy between their items a lot faster than you will. Now, if it goes like super late, like 50 to 60, minutes into a game, something like that, and everybody's 6 items, then the AP support is going to have more gold in their itemization, and they're probably going to be stronger potentially at the very, very end of the game, if they're have a 14,000 gold build or something versus, this person having like a 12,000 gold build. But that's very, very rare. Okay, so utilities spike faster and they scale better typically because they have a lot more synergy with each other. The penetration between these different items is nice, but I'm telling you right now that the healing and just all of the shenanigans that go on with these items is much, much stronger if you get to those items. Remember that Zyra was really strong for the past 7.1 to 7.4 patches because the game would end before you could get to Ruby, Sightstone, and Locket. It would usually just be Redemption versus Leandry's at one point. Or something like that, depending on how far ahead Zyra got, but a lot of that has changed. Okay, so that's why utility supports are strong in general. So the utility supports that I recommend that are on my S-Class list, these are like the highest champions for the current patch. You've got Janna, Lulu, Nami, and Soraka. Those are the 4 best champions right now, I think. And so why pick Nami over some of these others? What does she offer that's unique? Okay, so I went ahead and put a link to League Wikia there, and this is where that link goes. This is a fantastic site. If you've never used this before, it gives you all of the exact information about various champions and items and breaks it down in a nice, easy-to-view way. And the information is usually very, very accurate. It also tells you the history of how champs have been nerfed and buffed over time. Just all kinds of great info and links. So this is probably the best information site that I've ever found as far as League of Legends. So I highly recommend checking this site out. It's free, of course. They just throw some ads up and stuff for you. And I take off ad block. I know some people leave it on, but I like to just represent, I'm basically getting this for free. So, if an ad shows up every now and then, whatever. It's worth it to me to support these people. Okay. So she has pretty good basic stuff. She's got 550 range. She has the all-important 11.5 mana regen flat, which means that fairy charms scale very well with her. So some champions don't have that. So for instance, people ask me about Orianna support bottom. Well, Orianna only has 6 base mana regen. Now Lulu, and I believe Lulu has it. Let me see. I know that Janna has it. Yeah, Lulu has 11 instead of 12. But Janna has 12, Sona has 12. All of the champions that are intended to be support are going to have a 12 base. So that means that, about a 12 base. That means that whenever you buy a Fairy Charm, when it says you get plus 25% of your base, that means you're going to get 3 mana per 5 off a Fairy Charm, which is a great deal. Whereas if you buy a Fairy Charm with Orianna or someone who has a 6 base, then they're only going to get 1.5 benefit. So they're going to get half the benefit for the entire game from anything that gives plus regeneration. So it's important that Nami has the full amount because she is a big mana hog. She needs a lot of mana to do her stuff. Okay, so let's walk through her basic abilities. So all allied champions that get hit by any abilities will gain plus 60 bonus movement speed for 1.5 seconds. And it's doubled if they're hit by tidal waves. That would give them 120 base. And it's important to note this also has an AP ratio on it. We'll talk about that here in a second. So if you have 100 AP, then it's going to give you 80 movement speed, which is pretty significant since every single one of your abilities causes this. But yeah, so that's just important. Nice way to speed people up, nice way to escape. A thing to note is it's anything that hits your allies too. It doesn't have to be a friendly spell. So you can hit your own allies with Aqua Prison if you want, and it will speed them up this amount for 1.5 seconds. That's something that a lot of Nami players will overlook. So for example, now obviously you want to hit enemies with this, but sometimes you're not in range. So maybe an enemy flashes away and they're running and the jungler is close, like is within your Aqua Prison range, but not within range of you to run up and get in on the fight. You can actually throw an Aqua Prison on your ally and give them that speed up. Or if you're trying to run back to lane, you can throw the Aqua Prison on yourself or on an ally and it'll speed them up to get them back to lane. So lots of little tricks that you can do with this in there. And as it said right there, Tidal Wave typically only hits enemies, but if you hit allies, not only does it give them the 60, it gives them double. So it gives them 120. So if you throw a wave and it goes through like 3 of your own allies and then hits the enemies, it speeds everyone into the enemies. So that could be a pretty powerful combination. Or if your ally's trying to run away from somebody, they run through the wave and speed up and it hits the allies and knocks them back. So pretty interesting interaction with Surging Tides. And it's everyone that gets hit. So if you throw your wave on an ally, it bounces to an enemy, then it bounces back to another ally. Both of them are going to get that bonus movement speed. Okay, so it's pretty good. Pretty good. Okay, Aqua Prison. This is pretty good. It's got 875 range. That's really far range. That's deceptively far for something that can CC for 1.5 seconds. So that's pretty big. So she basically throws a bubble. It doesn't tell you the width of this bubble, but, you know, I imagine it's probably a couple hundred or something. It can hit multiple people pretty comfortably if you land it. So it not only stuns one person, but it can stun multiple people if you hit multiple people. If they're all piled in, I've had a triple bubble before. Maybe even more than that. But you can definitely get double bubbles. And that's obviously really powerful, a double stun for 1.5 seconds. So if enemies are clumped up, let's say an Orianna like ult brings everyone in together, and then you hit them with a bubble, you know, you could bubble their entire team for 1.5 seconds, potentially, in the dream scenario. Pretty weak damage, pretty weak scaling. I mean, the damage is okay when you max it out, but you're going to max this last, because it's pretty good as is. You do get a lower cooldown on it, but the other abilities in general are going to be stronger. So it's a pretty good 1-point wonder. The stun doesn't change. It's always 1.5 seconds. It can always hit multiple targets. It's only got a 0.5 AP scaling, which you're not going to get a lot of AP anyways. I'll talk about W here in a second. I've got a whole section about that. Tidecaller's Blessing. Basically, it's got 800 range. So once again, really far ranges. That's a thing about Nami. She has really, really far ranges. Nami blesses the target or herself for 6 seconds, causing the next 3 attacks to each deal bonus magic damage and slow the target. So this is really nice for chasing people down and for long extended fights, particularly for chasing. That's one of Nami's biggest strengths, and she's great at chasing people down, and she has wonderful ranges. So does okay on hit damage. I mean, 85 on hit's getting pretty good. You hit that 3 times, that's 255 damage with a 0.6 ratio, because 0.2 per hit. But this is crucial too. It applies this slow, and it reapplies the slow every time you hit with it. So you hit once, you know, slow them down for 35%. hit him again, slow him for another 35, hit him again, slow him for another 35. So in actuality, you know, this typically slows for 2 to 3 seconds for that amount. So that's pretty good. And so it's really good on people like Vayne, Ezreal, Lucian, people that want to run other champions down and kill them, or Hecarim. It's pretty nice. It does speed up Hecarim too when he's about to hit somebody, so that's really nice. She's pretty good with Hecarim. Then finally, you have her wave. It's on a pretty low cooldown for an ultimate, 120, pretty good. Janna's ult, I think, is 150. Or, yeah, 150. So 2 minutes instead of 2.5, which is good. Now, this has a huge range, 2750 range, but it moves very, very slowly. So it's really pretty easy to dodge if they're just wide out in the open and they see it coming. So you have to work around that. You have to try to throw it out of vision. So just be somewhere in the dark and throw it to flank people, or you throw it when they're already in a fight and crowd controlled. So, you know, if a Hecarim runs in and fears everybody, or a Mumu goes in and ults everybody, or J4 traps people, that's when you throw it. So, or you're trying to run in and save people and throw it, but it's really challenging to get the timing on it correct if you're trying to throw it max distance. But it can work that way, where you can throw it from really, really far and try to have an impact on a fight. But just know that you're going to miss a lot of those because it's easy to dodge, and you're trying to aim it. It's like trying to aim an Ashe arrow that goes at like a third of the arrow speed. Maybe not that slow, but it's at least a half of the arrow speed. So it has a little bit of a wider hitbox, but still, it's really hard to hit this long distance. So the best way to do it is you wait until they engage onto you or your team, or just somehow people are locked up and they're fighting, and then you throw it at them. So it's best used as a disengage type of mechanic, so to get people off of your allies. And it does decent magic damage, nothing crazy, and it does slow them, so it does knock them up, and it slows them for an additional about 3 seconds, depending on how far you throw it. 2 or 3 seconds typically. If you hit at max range, it's a 4-second slow. But it can be pretty good. It's also good for just throwing into Baron pits or Dragon pits, or just anywhere where people are going to be grouped up. It can definitely be pretty impactful. And once they get slowed by that really huge amount, then it's really easy to hit your bubbles or anything that your allies might have that wants to hit them. Makes it really easy to hit skill shots. Okay, so let's talk about her Ebb and Flow now. Now this is going to be kind of the meat and potatoes of Nami. This is like her whole identity, or this is a big part of it, is her W. It is extremely powerful. It's the best, I think it's the best trading tool, levels 1 to 5 in lane in the game, potentially, because what it does, it's very versatile. So basically, it throws a wave at somebody, and then it can bounce to 2 other characters. So it has to go either ally, enemy, or enemy, ally, enemy, depending on how you throw it. And it's got a 725 bounce. I think that's each bounce has 725. The range might go down a little bit each time. I'm not sure about that. It feels like the range does drop off a little bit, but the first one is 725, and typically it can bounce back 725. Okay, so what happens is you throw it. Typically, when you're laning, you'll throw it, you hit the enemy, it'll do some damage, and then it'll bounce back and heal you for a certain amount. And if another enemy's close, it'll bounce back off of you and hit the other enemy. But each time that it bounces, it's only 85% as efficient as the previous bounce. So it scales down quite a bit. However, if you have AP, then it regains a 7.5% per 100 AP on the bounce, and it has a really good AP ratio. So if you go damage, heal, damage, then it's going to have 130%, because it's going to hit twice on the damage. So 50 plus 50 is 100, then once on the heal is 130. If you go heal, damage, heal, then it's going to be 110%. But remember, and the reason that they do this, the reason that the heal is so much less than the magic damage, is because magic damage gets mitigated by resistances, and heals benefit from resistances. So that's why almost always you're going to see magic damage numbers higher than heal numbers. That's why heals are often so low on many champions, is because they benefit so heavily from resistances. Rito knows this. So they balance around that accordingly. So even though it looks like the damage one's better, in a team fight, often you'll want to hit an ally first. You want to go ally, enemy, ally, because your team's going to benefit much more from the heal than the damage that you're doing to enemies. Also, think of this range. Like, if you throw it, and you'll see this in one of the clips that I'll show you here in a little while, if you throw a W on your ally, let's say you're 725 exactly back from your ally, who is trying to chase somebody that's about 700 away. You throw it on your ally, it will bounce off your ally and hit the enemy at a max range of 1450. So you can bounce it off of an ally and you have 1450 range on dealing damage to the enemy. Now it's going to be reduced by 15%, so you know the 230 is going to go down to like 190 or something, but still that's 1400 range on a damage ability, potentially, that also heals your ally while it's on the way. And then, if you want to get real crazy with it, let's say that if the range holds true, which I think it might, let's say that you have this strange Congo line, right, where there's an enemy, and this isn't that strange in solo queue, actually, where you have an enemy that's chasing an ally at 725 range, and then you have one of your allies chasing that same enemy at an additional 725 range, and then let's say that you are behind your ally trying to chase to catch up with all of them. You can throw this at 725, hit the ally that you're chasing, it'll bounce an additional 725, hit the enemy that's chasing your ally, then it'll bounce off of that enemy and hit the initial ally that was in that chain, and that means you just healed an ally at a range of 2,175 away. So you basically just healed an ally at like a quarter of the map or half a map away, because of the way that bounce worked. So it's not, you're not always going to line it up like that, but you can see kind of the insane scenarios with this, in that you can play very far back and get some really efficient bounces in there. Typically what will happen is you'll just throw it at somebody at 725 in a team fight, and it'll just bounce around people that are in the team fight. Now you can't really direct where it goes, but it will hit a lot of people. It'll find targets. And it can't hit minions, so you can't waste any of it on minions. So it's very, very effective. Just how effective is it, you might ask? Well, let's go ahead and look. I went ahead and did some math for you here. So I'm assuming that you're doing heal, damage, heal. And we'll look at how effective it is at 0 AP, 100 AP, 200 AP, and 300 AP. So AP is really, really good on Nami. As I've explained before, it boosts this up a lot. So if you have 200 AP, you're giving someone 100 bonus movement speed every time you hit them with any ability. That's fast. Your Q, kind of whatever, it doesn't matter. It's a big deal, as we'll see here in a second on the W. Tidecaller's Blessing, that's pretty good. That's 40 extra damage. You have 200 AP per hit. So that's a total of 120 extra damage. So that's on a 0.6 ratio there. Because it hits. So that's pretty good. And on your R, it's okay. It does increase the slow too. So that'd be 45% slow instead of 35% if you had 200 AP. So it's okay. But on the W, it scales like, it's insane scaling, because it boosts, or it minimizes the loss on bounces, and it boosts the individual amount by an additional, 1.1 in this scenario. So here's how it works. At 0 AP, you'll deal 185 on the heal. Then you'll do 0.85 of the damage original that it could do, which is 196. And then you will heal for 0.72, which is 0.85 times 0.85 on the heal to deal 134 healing. Anyways, so that's so that ends up being 319 heal and 196 damage. This is all level 5 Ws. This is around level 9. So level 5 Ws. So you get a 319 heal and about 200 damage, and the total is 515 with 0 AP. 0 AP. That's really strong. And obviously, if you have any plus healing or, wind speakers or anything like that, it's going to go up even more. So that's a really high base shield. I mean, just by comparison, Janna's shield ends up, it's 240 base without any plus healing or anything, and the damage is somewhere around 300, depending on how often your AD carry attacks and stuff like that. I'll talk about that in the Janna guide. So it's a bigger heal, but less damage than someone like Janna is likely to do. but it's still really nice. Now, if you have 100 AP, then that turns into a 402 heal, 261 damage. So then you're getting, I add this up just as a total damage plus healing. That's not an exact metric to roll over because remember the healing and damage scale differently because of how resistances work. But just to come up with a nice compatible number, I just went ahead and added up the total combat effectiveness of this exchange. So for 100 AP, you actually get 29% more damage and healing off of it. So that's pretty big. With 200 AP, it goes to 490 heal, 330 damage for 820 total for 24% additional efficiency over the top of this one. So that's a total of 53% extra efficiency. And then finally, we have the 594 heal plus 409 equals 1003, and that's plus an additional 23% on top of this one. So it's curious to note that if you go over 200 AP, you actually gain damage on bounces. So it says that you get plus 0.75 per 100, but it doesn't tell you that number ever stops. So if you have 200, then it's 100% per bounce. So it deals full damage if you have 200 each time. Whereas if you have 300, then it does 107.5% each bounce. So the first bounce does a 7.5%, the next bounce does about 15%. Extra. Not penalty, extra damage. And so if you keep going, it gets higher and higher and higher. But yeah, that extra scaling off of the bounce means that AP is really, really good on her. But a 594 heal, are you kidding me? That's going to be on like a 6-second cooldown once you get 20% CDR. It's on a 10-second base. On a 6-second cooldown, you have like a 600 heal that also deals damage to people. That's also giving them, if you have 300, it's going to be giving them 120 move speed on both people and proccing Ardent Sensor on both people and all this crazy stuff. That's really, really good. But the problem is, the same problem with a lot of other champions, is that it's not better than Redemption and Locket, unfortunately. Getting AP is good, but it's not better most of the time than Redemption and Locket. If you math out a lot of these things. So let me just look at a couple of items here for you. So let's look at Athene's Unholy Grail. This is a popular one. I just coached somebody recently who got this on a Sona. But let's look at how efficient this item is. So right off the bat, it is 110% gold efficient, 121% gold efficient if you include its passive there. So what it comes down to is how much is this extra shielding and healing actually worth? So if you hit a, at level 1, if you hit a damage, heal damage on somebody, so that would be 230, let me see here, 230 times 0.72, because that's the third bounce would be the 0.72, plus 230. Okay, so you're getting about 400. So when you hit for 400, and you're getting about 80. So you're getting 80 stacks on this, because it's 20% of your pre-mitigation damage. So that means it'll heal for an additional 80. And one heal is about equal to 1 health, so that's 0.266. I talk about that in my itemization video. So you're getting about 210, 211 gold worth of stats off of this heal and shield. Each time you do a max wave and you do damage, heal, damage, which isn't the optimal way to do it, as I explained. Usually you want to do heal, damage, heal. But yeah, I mean, you're healing for an extra 80, which is nice for 210 stats. Now, let's see, this is 2100 also, right? Yes. So remember from my itemization video that Redemption gives you, on average, over 10,000 gold worth of stats. So if we're talking, all right, let me see. What was that? No, it was 80. Let me check that number again. 80 times 2 point. Okay, so we'll just call it, 210. Okay, so let's look at, let's call it 10,000 flat minus the gold that you get off of the basic stuff, divided by 210. You'd have to get off somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 to 36 W's in a fight to equal the efficiency of a redemption. A max redemption. Now let's say that it's, you only hit 2 people out of that, just rough napkin math times, just say that it's only 40% as efficient as I say it is. So let's say you only hit 2 people out of it, just ignore the base stats on it and all that stuff. You're still going to have to hit 14 to 15 waves. So even if you only hit 2 people with redemption, you're still going to have to hit 14 waves in a fight before Morellonomicon even starts to break even with redemption. Now, if you have a bunch of extra AP out of it, that is going to make your wave, you know, do more damage, as we just talked about. I'm not going to run through all of the math on that right now, but you would need a truckload of AP to make Athene's and this extra healing and shielding worth it. I mean, it maxes out at, let's say, level 12. You can only get up to 200. So let's see. So that would, you know, you'd need to do a lot more damage. 200, that means you'd need to do 1,000 damage, basically, because it's a 0.2. But even if you're doing 1,000 damage with Nami, 532 gold per. Let's make it even. What did I say? 200. So it's 7,500. What was the 532? You would still need to hit 14 W's, and let's say that you say that, okay, we're only going to hit 2 people with redemption instead of everybody. You know, it's going to be like 5 or 6. So even in the crazy scenario where you're hitting people with like 1,000 damage W's, like off of both bounces, which I don't even know how much, that'd be so much AP to do 1,000 damage off of your bounces. You know, you're looking at least 500 AP, probably, at least, to get that. So even if you're doing 1,000 damage every time you want to heal, it's still, like, the bonus healing off of this, it's not going to happen. It's going to take 6 waves in a team fight, even in the most insane scenario, to get more value out of a redemption that's only hitting 2 people, and not even 5 people. So yeah, just trust me when I tell you that redemption is way, way, way more efficient than Athene's Unholy Grail. Like, this looks cute, but it's really not worth everything that redemption gives you. So something else that people could look at if you want more AP is something like Abyssal Scepter, which in this circumstance, this is difficult to calculate because it gives you 10% extra magic damage on your entire team. So if you have like 2 or 3 other magic users, this can actually be quite powerful. So there might be some scenarios where you would want an Abyssal Scepter. If you have like 3 magic damage champions on your team and no one's getting it, that could be a good scenario. And the one that's most likely, I think, that you would most likely want to buy if you want to go all in on this, get some AP, would be Morellonomicon. But screen is frozen? Okay, well, I can't scroll. Okay, there we go. Because you get 100 AP out of it, you don't, like, the mana is kind of a wasted stat. It's okay on Nami. I don't really like flat mana in general. The Grievous Wounds can be nice if they have something like a Dr. Mundo or a Zac or just something else that's healing a lot. It does have ability power on it, which is really good, and you do get a lot of mana back on kills. But if you want to go all in on the AP, I think that's probably the better way to go if you need an extra AP item. Because that does give you a lot. Like, just 100 AP does give you 29% more efficiency on your heal and your damage, pretty much. So, in addition to all the other stuff that it gives you. So, it is nice if you have the extra money to grab something like a Morellonomicon. It does round out your CDR as well, so you can cast more W's. So, if you're going to get an AP item on Nami, like, you definitely want to rush Redemption, and I think you should probably still do Locket. But if you want to rush an AP item, maybe Morello. I think that Ardent Sensor is probably better. Still, in fact, I'm almost certain it is. Because you get the 60 AP, it only costs 2,300 instead of 2,900. You do get some mana regen, which is okay. You get the 10% cooldown, and you get the 10% healing and shielding, and you get 8% movement speed, and you get this insane buff that goes on 2 people every time you cast a wave. If you go heal, damage, heal rotation, then 2 people would get these different bonuses, up to 35% attack speed and on hit life stealing. So yeah, I think Ardent Sensor is still the ticket that you want to stamp here. So you still want to go Redemption Locket, Ardent Sensor probably, and then if you have time for an extra item, maybe Morello Nomicon as your final item could be a decent choice. But yeah, so AP does scale extremely well with Nami because it works with her passive, it works very well with her W, and it works pretty well on 2 different fronts with her E. So it is very, very good, but like a lot of other champions, Redemption and Locket are just so strong that that's still the way that you want to build her. Okay, now one thing that is more debatable is Eye of the Watchers. So I thought that Eye of the Watchers, when I first started doing this video, was probably going to be a great buy on Nami. But I'm skeptical now. And the reason is you're paying a lot for base mana regen, which you're already going to have pretty good base mana regen off of Redemption. But the key thing here is you have to remember that you're buying Eye of the Watchers instead of Ruby Sightstone, which is your other option. Now keep in mind, first of all, Ruby Sightstone is 600 gold cheaper. Right, so that's a big deal. So it's 600 gold cheaper, you don't have to buy any extra stuff off of it. And it has 300 more health, has 500 total health. So if you look at, pull up the calculator again here. So you're losing 300 health. That's how much health is worth. So that's 798 plus the 600 extra that you have to pay is 1398. So you have to ask yourself, 1400, is this stuff worth 1400 gold? Because that's what you could get with Ruby Sightstone. The 200 health doesn't matter because the Ruby Sightstone is also going to have that, the 200 and then the additional 300. So if you take that off, that's 533. That's going to take it down to 1310. So 1310 is what all this stuff is actually worth, and you're giving up 1398. So it's pretty close, but you're giving up 90 gold to get this. And you just have to ask yourself, you know, is mana regen really worth 500 gold at this point? Or would you rather have health, or would you rather have a faster redemption? 25 ability power is definitely worth on Nami. That's a really, really good stat on Nami. But the base mana regen, I mean, it's okay. But if you're already going to have redemption, is it worth getting that extra amount? It's definitely worth considering, right? And so Ruby Sightstone, don't forget, also gives you 20% cooldown on your items. Now remember, the Redemption and Locket that you're going to get are basically ultimates. I mean, they're more powerful than a lot of ultimates in the game. And having a 20% cooldown, just imagine if it said you get a 20% cooldown on your ultimate as Soraka or something like that. 20% CDR. That's about what that is. It's almost like 20% CDR on your 2 best abilities, which are going to be Locket and Redemption. And those things are so impactful in a game. Like that can determine whether or not team fights are won or lost. And getting that extra 20%, I mean, this is where it comes in with the extra gold that you get, right? People say, oh, you got to upgrade your gold item. It's like, yeah, but here's the thing. How often are you going to be walking up and basic attacking champions, you know, past 10 minutes into a game? Not often. Not often. So it's only going to happen in team fights. And if you're thinking, okay, you might activate this, and it can only happen 3 times every 30 seconds, right? So every team fight is not going to last more than 30 seconds most of the time. So you're going to be getting 45 gold every team fight, basically. And yeah, you're going to be getting 2 gold per 10 seconds. You know, that's 6 gold a minute. Come on, that's not gonna, or 12 gold per minute. That's not gonna be game breaking. You know, what is 12 gold per minute? 10 would be 120. So that's 30 minutes. You get like 1 kill worth of gold or something to have that. That'd be 360 gold for 30 minutes. So I don't think this is worth it. I mean, I just can't justify giving up that 90 gold worth of stats. And health is a very, very valuable stat on any character. That means you don't die when you get hit by things as often. And so I would rather have health than base mana regen. The ability power is nice. The cooldown reduction is nice. But that extra 20%, getting 20% cooldown on Locket and Redemption, I think is just way, way more powerful than getting this Tribute gold every now and then. Both of them give you 4 wards. So I think you should be going Ruby Sightstone. If for some reason you want to rush Ardent Censer instead of Locket, then perhaps you could go for Eye of the Watchers, because you're only going to have 1 activatable item instead of 2 for a lot of the game. But I still think that rushing Redemption Locket is going to be more important than Ardent Censer. Although that is debatable. I think Redemption absolutely number 1. But then it's possible that maybe you could rush Ardent Censer. I mean, one thing about Ardent Censer to keep in mind too is people often calculate that like you're hitting the champions that are going to have the most impact with the extra on hit and the extra attack speed, which is usually your AD carry. But you're not going to start a fight with that. You're not going to be casting your wave on your AD carry. You're just going to overheal them. And that's the only way you have to activate it. Like your E's not going to activate it. Only your W activates Ardent Censer on Nami. Or Locket or Redemption is going to activate that. And so most of the time you're going to be throwing your W on people that are actually getting hurt, who are your tanks on the front line or other type of damage dealing champions. And will they benefit as much from the on-hit healing and the extra attack speed? Maybe. It depends on what you're hitting. But you got to keep that in mind, that you're going to be throwing the heals primarily to heal people. And that means it's not going to be on your AD carry if you're doing a team fight properly. And your AD carry is like hanging out in the back, not getting hit by very many things. So it's okay, but it's okay. It's okay. I still think that you should be going Ruby Sightstone on this for those reasons. I'd rather have a 20%. It's about a wash in terms of the stats. You get it faster, which is very important. So that means that that's 600 less gold that you have to wait before you can get your redemption, which is a big deal. And I think the passive of the 20% cooldown on Locket or Redemption is much more game-breaking than having 45 extra gold every team fight, basically. Because, yeah, like I said, you're not going to be walking up and auto-attacking, you know, the 3-item vein to proc your 15 gold at 25 minutes into a game. It's not going to happen. So you're only going to get this bonus outside of lane when you team fight. Or if you're sieging towers, you can get some of it too. But it's just things that aren't going to be happening most of the time. Okay. Good. All right, so let's talk some more. How are we looking on time here? Yeah, we're doing okay. I'll try to pick it up a little bit here. So what are her strengths? So she has excellent early game domination. You can really put the screws to people with Nami. She has the best trading tool in the game, which is the W. You just walk up, auto-attack them, W them. Auto-attack them again, they can't really hit you back. Unless they go all in on you and like hit you with some kind of crowd control, they're not going to be able to damage you because you're going to heal right back. Whenever they auto-attack you once or twice, you're going to heal almost all of that back immediately off of a W. And their damage is going to stick to them. The fact that less people are running Warlords and more people are running Fervor also means that damage is going to stick, typically. So that's good. Awesome heal. So that means later on in the game when you're rotating or you're trying to do Baron or just when you're in a really long fight, having those heals is helpful. So that's where heals are better than shields, or where you're trying to, you know, bring people back up in HP after they've already been chunked really low. Because shields, you know, prevent damage, but they don't heal, obviously. And so, you know, when you win a team fight and your jungler's sitting at 10% health, you may not be able to go get Baron. If you have Janna and you don't have any cooldowns, but if you have Nami and you say, let's go to Baron, I'll heal you twice on the way, and then you heal him twice, you know, for 300 a pop, then all of a sudden you can do Baron. So it can be a big deal. Or you can go rotate after you get Baron and go push a tower. Or you can survive the Ezreal hitting. You don't have to give up the Baron because your Ezreal hits your AD carry twice with Qs, because you can heal through it. So the heal is very, very nice. It's one of the best single target heals in the game. Good initiation and follow-up tools. So she's not the best at initiation. Like I said, the wave is kind of hit or miss, usually miss if they see it coming. But the E is very good. So you throw that E on a Hecarim, or you throw that E on a just anything that wants to run in there and fight, and that lets you chase people down very, very well. Like, they're not getting away if there's a Nami around most of the time. So that's excellent on chasing champions like Vayne, like maybe Master Yi, Hecarim, maybe Graves, just anything that wants to get up in there and fight. It's good. So it's pretty good on initiations, and it's pretty good for chasing people down. So she's all right on initiations. And once you get a slow on somebody, then you can follow up with the wave, of course, and speed your team in, and also slow down the enemies. Okay, it's a very high AP scaling. I just said this, but you know, if it does get to end game and you need that extra 5th or 6th item, it is possible you could get something like a Morella Nomicon. Or, I mean, if you're super rich at the end of the game, you could even get like a Death Cap if it's like a 60-minute game. So she does have that on the table, and she's going to be better with that, with the AP, than virtually any other mainstream support out there. Utility mainstream support. Okay, and then she has unique long-range disruption. So not only does that wave help you engage, it's really, really long range. So that means you can knock Jhin out of his ult from a safe distance. You can knock Xerath out of his ult. You could potentially stop a Fiddlesticks from ulting if you like see him setting up for it and throw it at him fast enough. So anything that might require kind of long distance can be really, really useful. Or like I said, if you're just kind of running behind and it's just like a Clown Fiesta and you just really need to throw something long distance to try to help, that could be something helpful. And great chasing, as I just described. Okay, her weaknesses, she has very limited self-peel. So if they get on you, if like an AD assassin or just anybody gets on you, you're in big trouble. I mean, all you can really do is like try to bubble them and E yourself and run away. And her stuff has some cast animations. So it's not like Janna, who can just instantly throw a tornado behind her. She throws the Q, she has to turn around, and it has a small animation to throw the Q. Then you can run again. So it does actually kind of self-stun you for like a quarter of a second while you're casting these things. Maybe not that long, but it's not fluid. It's really hard to run away and cast spells behind you as Nami. She's not really meant to do that, whereas Janna can do that. Like her... when she's running, when you start casting her tornado, it doesn't slow you down at all. It just starts casting it. She does a little animation, but she can do that while she's running and then throws it behind her. So it doesn't seem like it's a big deal. It's a really big deal when you have something very scary chasing you and you need to get away immediately. That's a big difference between the two, is that Janna's animation doesn't stop her, and Nami's will stop her for a little bit. So it's harder to get away with her. And her speed up is very like limited. So it's only for 1.5 seconds for, you know, the speed up of whatever it was, 60. Whereas Lulu speeds up somebody for an entire 4 seconds. You can speed yourself up for 4 seconds, throw a Pix at them, that'll slow them down and just run, and you might be able to get away. So Janna's the queen of getting away. Lulu's a little bit better than Nami, and Nami's kind of tougher to get away with. All right, limited steroids for the ADC. So she does have a steroid for the AD carry. If you throw this on them, it is going to hit them. It is going to do extra damage. And you might be thinking, wow, you know, 85 damage on hit is pretty good. It's like, well, yeah, sort of. And, you know, you might be thinking, oh, well, Janna's is only 40 on hit. This only lasts for 3 hits, regardless of their attack speed, and it cannot crit. And it does not scale with any AD stuff. So it doesn't scale with Vayne Tumbles. It doesn't scale with like a Twitch ult. It doesn't scale with Draven Axes. All of those things get extra scaling off of AD. So the fact this is not AD, this is just strictly on hit magic damage, means that, you know, it's going to be less damage than a Lulu or a Janna who has a shield or the W on somebody who gives that bonus attack speed and bonus on hit. So it's okay. It's good. But it's not as good as Janna or Lulu in terms of just really cranking up your AD carry to do massive damage. It's okay. But it does offer a really good chasing tool, which Lulu's does that as well. But it does offer some unique things that those don't offer. But it's just not going to be as good with those. Now, there are certain champions where this is really nice, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Primarily Lucian and Ezreal, who benefit from on hit. So Lucian's double shot will apply 2 of these. So it's a nice quick succession of burst damage. And then Ezreal's Q also applies this. Whereas it's not going to benefit from Lulu's speed up at all. Neither Ezreal's Q or Lucian's double shots are going to benefit from Lulu's extra attack speed. I don't believe. I know obviously Ezreal's doesn't. Lucian's double shot might be faster with attack speed. I'm not sure. But either way, this is going to be better than Lulu on those champions. Now, Janna's still pretty good on both of those, but that's one thing to kind of distinguish her. Is that it's limited steroids. It's potentially better than Lulu's on some champions, but on most champions, it's not going to be as good, although it is good for hunting people down. Okay, it's really hard to hit your skill shots as Nami against really highly mobile targets. So it's hard to land bubbles on champions like Ezreal or Lucian or Vayne or Master Yi or just anything that can kind of jump around. Ahri. It's going to be really hard to hit those. So it's better as follow-up. So if someone else locks them down, you can hit them with the crowd control. And that makes her really strong. Or if it's someone who doesn't have good escapes like Kog'Maw or Jinx, something like that, then it makes it easier to hit these Aqua Prisons. And you can hit them with the E first, an auto attack to slow them down, and then hit them with the Aqua Prison, and sometimes that helps. But once again, that's not going to help you against a Lucian dash or Vayne roll or Ezreal blink or whatever. So she has a hard time against mobile champions. And she has low proactive protection. So if it's something that's just going to like one-shot or blow up your ally, and then you're not going to be able to have anything to stop that really. You can only reactively heal people. So I'm trying to think of like a scenario where that would be the case. Like a Lux Laser is just going to straight one-shot your AD carry or something. Zed is a good example. I think the shield... I'm not sure if that feeds into Zed's R or not. If some of it gets shielded. I don't know. But I just know that there are some cases where it's better to have a shield than a heal. Because you want to stop the upfront damage that something's going to deal. Instead of having to retroactively heal through it. So it's not all the time or all cases, but... that definitely can show up where you would rather have the shield than the heal. Although there's just as many cases also where you'd rather have the heal than the shield. Such as, you know, you're rotating from one place to another. And you can be late on the heal, a little bit later on the heal than you can with the shield, a lot of times. So, you know, if someone gets hit and you don't get your Janna shield up fast enough, it's like, oops, well, I guess they just take that damage. But with Nami, they hit them, and you're like, oh, I need to heal them. Then you have a slightly higher window of time, like reaction time, where you can heal because it's retroactive. Although you still want to be on point with your heals. Obviously, they'll die if you don't heal them fast enough. But I'm just saying you have a little bit more of an oops window with a heal than a shield. Okay. Matchups. So Nami is really good with Ezreal, Lucian, Jhin, and Twitch. Okay, so Ezreal and Lucian, because they have special on-hit things about them, right? So Ezreal's Q, especially now that most Ezreals are running Trinity Force instead, this gives you that slow of the Frozen Fist, but it gives them more damage with the Trinity Force. So that's really, really nice. So Ezreal's Qs do proc Nami's slow. Lucian's double shots, as I explained, do burst damage, so it uses 2 procs on the double shots. You get that quick damage off of them. Vayne is really good with Nami. You can heal her through lane, through tough lane. So against a Caitlyn or a Sona or something like that, you're going to have a hard time. Nami can heal through a lot of that. And once you're trying to run people down with Vayne, which is what she wants to do later in the game, and to kite around and run around, being able to speed people up and slow them down with your E so that you can kite them better or run them down, is really good. It just synergizes very well with Vayne's overall kit of chasing and kiting. Jhin doesn't benefit from attack speed of Lulu very much. He does benefit from Janna's AD bonus, but Janna doesn't have a lot of early game pressure. And Jhin is primarily an early game pressure, get ahead type of champion. So having those E's are nice to slow down, make it easier for Jhin to hit his W's. If he hits a W, you can hit him with a bubble, follow up, blow him up. You can heal Jin if he gets hit by anything. So they're a really good early pressure lane is Nami Jin. So it's kind of like Zyra Jin early on, but a little bit damage, a little bit more sustain. And obviously hitting them with your wave later in the game makes it really easy for him to, should make it easy in theory for him to land all of his ult shots on people. So, or if he hits an ult shot on someone, it makes it easy to hit you, for you to hit them with a wave. So they have a lot of nice synergies with each other later on. And then Twitch is really good. You can heal him through the early lane. So kind of like Vayne, he has problems early on, but you can heal through it. You have enough aggression to keep people off of him. And then if he rolls up invisible and you put your E on him while he's invisible, it speeds him up to get into position. And then when he hits people, then it's going to slow him down and make it so they can't get away from his ult as much. Now, I believe that the first 3 champions that are hit, I think, all proc it. Let me see. I'm not sure. I'd have to read how that interaction works, but I think if Twitch shoots and he hits 3 people with his first shot, I think it uses all 3 charges. It's not worded precisely. So, I mean, the obvious scenario that would be super sweet is if, because it says the next 3 basic attacks deal bonus magic damage. So if he just shoots once, hits 3 people, it deals the bonus magic damage, but then he keeps the other 2 charges. So in effect, if he hits 3 people like 3, 3, 3 on his hits, then he would get 9 charges out of it. That would obviously do a ton of damage. But I'm not sure if it works that way or not. I'd have to read it and not apply a spell effect. Critically strike is normal. Tidecar's Blessing has no effect against structures. Yeah, crit doesn't matter. I'm gonna see here really quick. Three E procs at range. I'm not sure. I don't see any really like reliable sources here. Those are really old. This looks sketchy. This one looks sketchy. I don't know. It's a good combo. It's a good combo. So really, in effect, it doesn't matter if it works that way or not. You would do the same thing in the game regardless. You want to put an E on him when he's about to bust out of his stealth and open up with his ultimate. So it might do extra damage, but in all practicality, it doesn't matter. The playstyle would be exactly the same. You would make the same decision. So I think it's a good interaction. Okay, so Nami's really good against Sona, Thresh, Jin, and Xerath. So she's good against Sona and Thresh. Sona because she can out-heal and out-trade her later, and she has more crowd control. Or in lane she can bully up on her pretty easily. Thresh is really easy to hit with bubbles, got a huge hitbox. He's not going to do anything to stop you from harassing early on a lot of times unless you get hit by hooks, which shouldn't be happening. And with Jin and Xerath, both of them have channeled ults that are really long range, so you can use your ultimate to knock them out of those ults. That's helpful. She's not great with champions that need a lot of peel early on. So Kate, Draven, Jinx, and Kog'Maw. Those all have great steroids with Lulu or Janna, so they really want to have that extra attack speed or that extra AD because they're going to have really high scaling and they're going to be building a crit build, which none of these are really going to be building like high attack speed crit builds except for Vayne. And Vayne is good with Janna and Lulu also. So is Twitch. But Nami adds that extra safety layer early on with the heals. So she's not great with these. I mean, she's okay with these champions, but she's not going to offer as much peel. And a lot of these don't want to... I mean, Draven does want to chase people down. She's okay with Draven, but I just think that either Janna or Lulu is probably better with these than Nami is. But she's okay with them. Now, she's not great against Yasuo and Braum because both of them have mechanics that stop her wave, such as Braum's shield and Yasuo's wind wall. Not great against Lucian or any other highly mobile champions. Ezreal, things that can dodge out of your bubble and can get away from stuff. and Ari. So like really highly mobile assassins that can come in and blow you up because you just don't have a lot of defense. Okay, so items, Ionian Boots, Redemption, Locket, Ruby Sightstone Sensor. Runes, I would go for something really aggressive. We just talked about how she scales super well with AP. So I would just go 9 AP blues. Excuse me, 1 AP Quint, 2 armor. That'll help you trade a little bit better. You could go 3 AP, but that's getting a little dicey. I would still just go 2, just in case you take a couple of hits, you get hit by a Thresh Hook or something. And I think the dual penetration is great for early on. You can go armor instead, but I think just going for the penetration is good. Also, I mean, you can go flat magic pen, but you get more mileage out of going dual pen runes because you're going to be throwing a lot of auto attacks as well early on. So that's what I would go. And always Windspeaker. Don't do Thunderlords. Windspeaker just scales way, way better. I talk about this in my 7.6 thing that I left at the top, the link to the 7.6 section on utility itemization. Windspeakers are just way, way, way better. Even though you don't have as much early game pressure without Thunderlords, Windspeaker is just such a huge power spike once you get Redemption and Locket that you really want to have that mastery. Okay, so let's look at some popular comparisons. So Nami versus Lulu. Nami's much better at early trading. She has better sustain. She has longer ranges. The ranges are crazy, as I talked about with the W, because it can bounce. And the Q and the E both have over 800 range. That's massive. So one of Lulu's big problems is that her stuff is really close range. So her E is like 625 range, and her W, I think, is like 600. It might even be less than that. Let me look her up real quick. But her ranges are really short. Her Glitter Lance has pretty good range on it, but you're only going to get one.
Smartphone users
what the hell?
Hungry children by 20 to 1. Imagine the impact you and your friends can have.
Stop. God. Sorry about that. Holy crap. Jesus, that scared the crap out of me. I was like, what is that? Okay, we won't go back there. So sorry, it doesn't usually pop up like that on me. Holy crap. Sorry, sorry about that. I can't edit that out. I don't edit these. I do it in one shot just to make sure I can finish it more efficiently. But yeah. Anyways, God, my heart's still recovering. Her ranges are really short. They're about 600 or so on her E and her W, which means you have to get a lot closer to the action, or if you're running to try to save somebody, you might be out of range, so you can't save them. But because Nami has such huge range on all of her stuff, then it means that you can play a lot safer and you can react to situations a lot better. And you have a lot better sustained chase potential. So Lulu can chase people with the W, and I mean, you can put shields and Q people, so I guess it's really probably about the same chase potential. It's both of them have pretty good. I want to say good. There we go. I want to say good sustained chase potential. So Lulu's going to have stronger engage overall, greater single target burst healing, better long-term crowd control, and better scaling with the W attack speed. So really, you're picking Nami over Lulu because you want more early game aggression, primarily. So you really just want to pound your lane early. Lulu can do that to some extent, but she doesn't have the heal. So there's very specific matchups where Nami is really good. So early game healing, especially on a hyperscaling champion like Twitch or Vayne, something like that is really helpful. And her unique interactions with the E on Nami and Ezreal make her a pretty good choice for Nami and Ezreal. I would say the best one is probably Nami with Ezreal is way better than Lulu with Ezreal. Because Ezreal just doesn't benefit from that attack speed very much at all. And he benefits from all kinds of stuff on Nami. Probably Lucian as well. Okay, so Nami versus Janna. So Nami's much better at early game trading. She's better at chasing. She has better sustain. And she has better sort of really long range disruption. Whereas Janna has much stronger shielding, stronger crowd control, much higher scaling, and much more useful later in the game. So Janna's going to beat you up later in the game, as she does with almost every other utility support because of the way that AD scales with the AD carries on the shield. So Janna does a ton of damage because of the way that works. And it's under the hood. No one notices it, but Janna does a lot of damage. It's just she doesn't get credited with that damage. The AD carry gets credited with the damage. But if you look at your AD carries, if you play games with Janna and without Janna and just look and see how much more damage your AD carries do, it's a lot more damage when they have a Janna on their team. Okay, so how do you lane as Janna? So you want to max R, then your W, your wave, then your Tidecaller's Blessing, your E, and then your bubble last. Aggression. You are picking her to fight. You want to beat them down early. That is your goal as Nami. You want to make sure that they are down at least 20 CS when they get out of lane. So you want to fight every time your W is off a CD. Your trading should, if you can, do auto, W, auto. Sometimes you might only have time for an auto plus W if you aggro too many creeps, but you should try to sneak in this combo every time you can, and it's really good. Try to position to hit both enemies with your W. So if you can get in a position to where you're going to hit the AD carry with your first W, auto attack them, it bounces back to you, and then bounces over to hit the support too, that's even better. That's not always possible, but if you can position for that, that's great. And if they don't have a lot of dangerous CDs, if you can just bully them out, if they're already kind of low, just keep fighting them. Just keep going. Especially if your AD carry is jumping in to help you out. And then finally, when you're doing these trades, you can fade into bushes to drop the minion aggro. So when you go up W auto, then if you run back in the bush, then the minions will get off of you. Because remember, if you ever auto attack somebody, all the minions are going to stop what they're doing and come at you. If you use abilities, they will not. But if you auto attack, then they will. Tell your AD carry to help you out. So just say, hey, I'm going really aggro here. Help me zone them out. And if you can zone them off of CS, which you should be able to do, then you should be able to completely dominate the lane. You want to be aware of jungler ganks. People are going to cry to the jungler, help me, we're getting beat up by this Nami. Like, they're not going to say that, but they're going to say, come on, man, where's the jungler? Where's the help, man? When you're like beating the crap out of them in lane and they're getting pushed into their tower. So just be aware. AD carry's going to cry about it, and the jungler's probably going to come down and gank you. So just don't get caught out by the ganks. So be aggressive, but just kind of leave them alone a little bit under tower. If you don't know where the jungler is, just back up a little bit. Try to keep good wards up. Just know that you will probably dominate them heavily in lane, and one of the only ways you can lose the lane with Nami is if they hard engage on you and go all in, or if the jungler shows up. So make sure none of those happen. You want to use most of your mana on W harass. I see some people trying to run up with like Tidecaller's Blessing and like trade auto attacks and like try to Q people and stuff like that. That's usually a waste of mana. W is guaranteed damage. It's not a skill shot. It heals you in addition to the damage, and that lets you sneak in a couple more auto attacks. Because if you run up and try to hit them with Tidecaller's Blessing with your E, yeah, you're going to do a little bit of extra damage on your auto attack, but they're going to damage you back a lot. Whereas with W, they don't damage you back. Like, you get free harass. Like, you get to attack, W, attack, and you're going to stay about full health, and they're going to get chunked out for like a third of their health. So use most of your W on harass. You can try to land a Q when they last hit. So if there's something that doesn't have a lot of mobility, so let's say they're like a Cogmaw, when they walk up to try to last hit a minion, ping it so that you're going to try it, so that your AD carry is ready for it. And then as soon as you hit them with a bubble, then you can W them. And if you think you're really going to be able to go all in, you can put the E on yourself and then go in for the all in. So the E harass is a waste of mana typically. Only use it for all ins. And it's important to save one of your spells, usually your E, so you can speed yourself up if the jungler comes and get away. So, just use the E's for the all-ins. Or if your AD carry is walking up to land a bunch of auto attacks, basically going all in, then you can put the E on them. But don't put it on yourself to auto. It's just not worth it most of the time. Remember that your Q also speeds up allies. So I talked about that before, but if you hit your own allies or yourself with your Q, then it does give you that extra bonus speed. So sometimes this is very relevant if your jungler shows up. Pull up the map here. Let's say that you're back here at tower, very common. You're getting pushed in for some reason. Maybe you have like an Ezreal on your team. It's like Nami, Ezreal, and they have like a Draven Sona or something. And they're pushing you in. Jungler wraps around here, initiates, starts a fight. You're running up. Draven flashes. He goes to like right here, and you don't quite have enough speed up to get on him. So you can throw your wave and hit your own jungler, and it'll speed the jungler up to get into him. So maybe you throw the bubble, speed up the jungler, they run forward, and then you throw an E on them after that speed up, and then they get to run in and finish them off. So that's one scenario where you may not get to bubble them. Now, ideally, you know, what you would do if you see they're wrapping around here and you're not too low on health, you would put the E on yourself, auto attack them a couple of times, maybe exhaust them to bait them, and then hit them with the bubble. And that would probably be better. But there are some circumstances where you're going to be out of range to hit an enemy target, and you could still potentially hit an ally target with your bubble to speed them up and get them in there. So it's rare, but just know that that's on the table if you need to do that. Okay. So your strongest all-in is usually E, like I just described, auto at least once to slow them down, and then Q, because it's a lot easier to hit the Qs when they're slowed, and then W, finally. Ideally, you want 3 people to be in range for the W. So like you, ally, or you, enemy, and one other person. So that you get the maximum number of bounces. Okay. And then during an all-in, try to heal allies first for the bounces. So if you go heal ally, then it hits enemy, then it hits you or someone else, and that's the most efficient way to use that wave. You can use it on enemies if you want, like enemy, you. But the problem is, like, let's say that you're going all in, and their support has just run really far back. So let's say that you're going all in right here. It's Ezreal, Nami versus Draven, Sona. For some reason, you got them low. If you just hit the Draven here, and let's say that their support's right here fighting you. If you just hit the Draven, so let's say you throw a wave, hits Draven, it has to bounce back to heal someone else. So let's say it bounces off of them, your AD carry's lower, so it bounces to them. I'm pretty sure it prioritizes the lowest target on the heals. Well, once it bounces to them, there's no other valid targets, because the other enemy's over here. And there wouldn't be any enemies right here, next to your AD carry. So then you just wasted a bounce. You only got one bounce. Use it, bounce, done. Whereas if you heal your own ally, it'll check for allies off of the first bounce. So let's say that you're here, you heal your AD carry, it bounces off of them, hits the enemy, and then it bounces off the enemy, and now since you're close to them, it'll bounce back to hit you. So hit them, bounce, bounce, and you get the full 3 hits out of it, right? You get the initial plus the 2 bounces, where if you hit the enemy, if it bounces to an ally that's out of range of other enemies, you only get 1 bounce. You only get 2 hits. So it's really important to keep in mind in trades. I know the instinct, at least for me sometimes, and for a lot of people, is to hit the enemy, right? It's an all-in, hit the enemy with that wave to do the maximum damage to them. But you're not. It's really not the maximum. Like, you want to be healing people. Unless you know that you are winning the fight and they are unequivocally not going to kill either one of you, and you're just trying to blow them up, then you can hit them with the wave. But if it's getting kind of close, if it's a tight all-in, then you want to make sure that it bounces to you the most. Now, maybe if it's like a melee champion that's in here on top of your guy, then maybe you hit the AD carry, then it hits you. You hit their AD carry, then it hits your AD carry, and then it bounces onto the person that's attacking your AD carry. That could be viable. But remember that the healing is typically much better than the damage overall. So just think carefully about your waves, and if you're not sure what to do, hit allies with it first, because that's usually the better move. When you use your R, you want to use it primarily to disengage. So the wave is very slow and easy to dodge. You can also use it for follow-up engage, as I've described before. You want to try to line up the wave to hit as many allies and enemies as you can. So remember that the wave also speeds up your allies. I had someone on stream the other night ask me, Declare, you were a little slow on that wave. It took you an extra half a second to throw the wave against that gen that was ulting. I'm like, yes, because I was lining up the shot. So I think it was something like, I think I was like right here, and Jin was like ulting from right here, or something like that. Or he opens up and I see that he's going to start ulting, and everybody else is like fighting in here. So instead of throwing the wave through here and hitting nobody except for the Jin, I rotated around to right here for about half a second. Everyone's fighting right here. Threw the wave, went through all of them, and then it went and hit the Jin. So it's better. Yeah, I could throw it from here, and I might stop one more shot. But if I rotate here, then I'm going to hit, 6 more people, and hit the gen and knock him out of it at the end. And all of these people are going to be hit with the damage. They're going to be slowed, or they're going to be sped up so they can kite more. It's just way, way better to throw it through the maximum number of people than to immediately throw it and hit a gen or a Zerath out there. So just always think about positioning to hit as many people as you possibly can with that wave, because it's quite useful. You know, having that extra 100 move speed on allies, or 120 move speed for a second and a half, could be a really big deal to help your allies kite. And then, of course, hitting enemies for damage and slowing them by 50% is pretty good too, rumor has it. So just make sure that you're lining it up and don't use it immediately if something bad's happening. Like, you can panic ult if you have to, but generally it's a lot better to line it up and then get a good quality shot in there that's going to hit a bunch of people. Usually you want to go just quantity over quality on a lot of that, because, you know, people can dodge it. I mean, what happens if Jin sees that wave coming in, which he's going to see it, because it's running right through, like, his field of vision there. What happens if he just throws 2 shots and he's like, oh, it's a Nami wave, then he just cancels his ult and walks away? Then it doesn't hit anybody. It has no effect. So anyways, just hit as many people as possible with your R typically. If you can throw your wave from blind spots, that's good. And just be aware of Yasuo or Braum in particular, people that can cancel your wave. So for example, here's another good spot. Let's say that your team is about to start a team fight here. Just hang out right here where there may not be any vision, and once they start a fight, then throw your wave over this wall at an angle. You're much more likely to hit a lot of people. Whereas if you start right here and they see you charging up and just throw your wave straight down, a lot of people are just going to sidestep it. But if you throw things diagonally, and you'll see this with a lot of champions with skill shots, like diagonal covers more surface area a lot of times. It makes it harder to dodge. So throw it here, right through the middle. It's going to be a lot harder for people to dodge. They're not going to see it coming. They're not going to see your animation, and they're probably watching the fight because they don't see you. Then all of a sudden, they're going to see the wave when it's like right here, and they'll be like, oh crap. And if they don't have a flash or something, then they're going to get hit with it. So it's just a lot better to fade out of vision. As it is with most supports, if you don't have to reveal yourself, don't reveal yourself. Just hang out in bushes near fights, and just don't show yourself in lane, unless you absolutely have to. Yeah, okay. So how to team fight. Did I not have? Oh, I didn't have a link to it. Okay, well, I'll show you how to do this in lane. I already got this pulled up here really quickly. How are we looking on time? It's getting kind of long, but we'll show it. So I just want to show you a little bit of laning and how you can put some of this stuff into practice here. And I'll go ahead and mute the VOD itself, and we'll just watch a little bit. This is a clip from a stream. Okay, so we're going to walk up. I should start harassing this Ashe here in a little bit. Now, I have Vel'Koz, who's pretty good at harassing too. So even though I took some harass, I can still walk up. Look at that heal. I hit both of them. So I hit Vel'Koz, and it also bounced to Ashe. We've already got her down to 50%. I'm not really worried that I've taken damage because I'm just going to heal it whenever I use my W. So I just W, auto, run back so the creeps stop hitting me. Every time it's off cooldown. Just waiting on that cooldown, okay? So I put the E on him so he does extra damage. Do a wave, it bounces, hits Ashe, hits me. So we got a double hit there again. Now they should be really low. Yeah, level 2, Vel'Koz is at like 10%, chugging a potion. Ashe is at lower. Okay, so I'm saying I'm going to come over here for this fight. Okay, I got him. We'll watch a little bit more of this just so you can kind of see how the laning works, and I've got a team fight for you. Okay. So I just healed Ezreal. Usually it's not the best to heal your ally. It's not the most efficient, but he was already kind of low, so I just wanted to top him off. Now I should go up and heal, or attack Ashe here in a second. So they don't have very strong all-in. I mean, I could get hit by a Vel'Koz, like, Tremor or whatever, but it's not really a huge threat. He just pokes, and I just heal through it. Against, like, a Blitz or something, you need to be careful that you don't get hooked under tower and stuff like that, of course, but... Okay, I'll fast forward a little bit here. I think we get another good exchange here in a second. Okay, so we've got him kind of low. We just keep hitting him with the wave. Every time they try to come up, you just hit her. So she's going to run out of pots. She's having to use her mana to try to get the wave. Ezreal's pressuring up with me a little bit now. Another double bounce. Got an auto attack in there. Now, I don't have my bubble yet. I leveled the E at level 2 because Ezreal was going hard. So I don't have my Q yet because I wanted 2 points in W just for more harassment. Now, if Ezreal E's forward, there we go. So I'm going to bounce onto him, put the E on him. So if he goes really far forward, I can, you know, W off of him onto them. Okay, so now I'm going to go for the Q, I assume. Yeah. Then I want to put the E on him. There we go. Lands a hit. Oh. Okay, so he kind of wasted his flash there, but he did get Ash's heal and Vel'Koz's flash. So using one flash for 2 of theirs is okay. So that's pretty good. As you can see, we are dominating the lane. Oops. Let me go back a little bit. How are we looking? We should be up a lot. We're not up a lot. Ezreal's just missing a lot of wide open CS, and this is a problem with a harassed champion like Nami. If they don't capitalize on it, it can be a problem. But I am getting Ezreal through a really weak laning phase. Ezreal sucks early on. And so if Ezreal is breaking even with other champions in lane, Ashe is pretty good early on too. She has a really far attack range and her W has a lot of range. And Vel'Koz, of course, has a lot of poke. So if I wasn't playing Nami, if I wasn't harassing that much, we would probably be down a lot more CS if I'd played something like a Nautilus or something like that here that could get poked out. Okay. So let's look at how to team fight, and then I have a clip for that as well. So you want to wait on others to start the fight. Put the E on allies to encourage them to fight. So if people just don't want to fight, just ping it and then put an E on them, and a lot of times they'll just go. If you don't have really good engage, you can get Talisman of Ascension as a last resort. But I really wouldn't recommend going that item. So your job primarily is to heal and disrupt from afar. So do not get up in the fight. You have really long ranges. Do not try to go there and W their AD carry or their really scary mage. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to disrupt. So just heal from afar, and whenever people are clumped up, throw a Q in there and try to see how many people you can hit. It's better to hit more people than to hit the precise person that you really want to hit a lot of times. So if you can crowd control both of their divers, both of their tanks with a bubble, a lot of times that can be even better than crowd controlling their mage. It depends, obviously, on the situation, but getting double bubbles is fine, is what I'm trying to say. So if you can double bubble, even if it's bruisers, that's usually very, very helpful. And just remember, your W has some insane bounce range, so you can play very, very far back with all of your spells. Use your R once everyone's clumped up and preoccupied. Just wait on it. Wait on people to group up. Throw your wave through all of them. Qs in the clumps. I would use Redemption and Lock It almost immediately when a fight starts, so it's breaking out. Just make sure you get it done. Don't wait until the last second and try to be a hero with Redemption and Lock It. Just get those shields on them, because that empowers people to be braver and it intimidates enemies. So if someone, gets knocked out to half health at the beginning of a fight and you redemption them and they go back to full, they're going to think, oh, sweet, I'm at full health. I can keep fighting. Whereas if you wait until they're at quarter health, they might start running. And then you redemption them, and then they'll be like, oh, I'm kind of scared, but I guess I can keep fighting. But in the meantime, while they were running, you were just losing, 2.5 seconds of DPS while they were running and the redemption was going off. So you want to keep them topped off and healed because it gives them confidence to keep fighting. And it intimidates enemies. Because if they see, oh my god, that person's just not taking any damage, we got to get out of here, we're at half health, then they're going to start running sooner. Then they're losing DPS. So you want to keep people topped off. Like, obviously, you don't want to overheal too much with Redemption. But remember, it does damage also. It does 10% max damage, true damage. So that's good. So just use these items very liberally in big fights that are going to be all in. Just, you do not want those to be available at the end of a fight. You want them on cooldown at the end of every major fight. And just try to hit the maximum number of people with each one of these items. Okay, so I have one more clip here that I want to show you. And I think it was at 22:25. Let's see here. A decent little team fight. There weren't a ton of, huge 5v5 fights in this. I don't know if I've released this one yet, like I said, but I will try to release it soon for you. Okay. So we're kind of in the mid-game here. I have the redemption. we're down some points. We've got this, I think it's the Oriana's just like losing her mind and just like wanting to go AFK. She's like 0-6 or whatever. And we're just trying to figure out a way to get ahead here. I can turn this game around. Now this Ezreal's pretty strong from what I remember. I'm just sweeping wards. I noticed there's about to be a bunch of stuff going down bot lane, so I ping people back. They don't really listen. We see 4 people over here. So we're going to come over here to help. So Ezreal shows up. They got 4 people. We see them all. Trying to hit some wards here. We're telling people to back, but Poppy's like, nah, man, I'm going in. I got this, you know, 4v5 or 3v4 here. All right, so she goes in, knocks people up. Ezreal does some nice damage. Okay, we got that. I throw the wave. More waves. Put the slow on people. Right now, I'm just trying to keep people off of Ezreal. Now, this is where you can start to see some chase going on here. So I did put the E on him to help him slow. We'll see here in a second. Okay, use the wave, speed him up. Put the E on him. It's a little out of range. Now, as soon as he jumps closer... Okay, I tried to hit him with the bubble. But he, like, dashed closer. But now, watch the range on this. So I'm, like, way back here. I'm throwing wave on Ezreal to speed him up and to bounce to the Shin. So check this out. Boom. Boom. So you can hit from here, heal, bounce over to here to hit him, and it's going to top off Poppy. Boom. So it didn't kill him with that wave. Did you see the distance on that thing? That was like almost a screen length on that W. It was really, really far, like I was talking about. So that's that Congo line thing I was talking about earlier. Like, we didn't have the maximum Congo. Like, there wasn't someone else that he was chasing that it could bounce to. But in theory, even if there was someone he was chasing that was right here, it would have bounced from Ezreal over to him right there. And then if he were chasing Poppy and Poppy was right here, it would have bounced from him over to the Poppy. So I could have almost gone like river bush to river bush off of that heal. And we move on. So, yeah, I didn't use Redemption in there because everyone else ran. You know, Lee Sin wasn't there and LeBlanc left, so I didn't have to use the Redemption there. Now, we've got Dragon coming up soon. Okay, so I'm pinging it 3 times. Move up here. There's another fight going on up here. This guy's like, I'm telling him to just chill. He's like, I'm done. I'm like, just chill. It's like, I'm doing the most chill thing. He's like 0-7. I'm like, dude. And he keeps trying to fight people and die. Okay, so I have to babysit this guy and talk him off the ledge here. Okay, I see a fight going down. Drop Redemption. W bounce him. There we go. Okay, so I'm trying to talk him down off of it. Healing people up. So now that we're healed, we could, in theory, go for something like a Baron. I don't know if they're going for it or not. I can't remember. This guy's like, I'm not having an off game, man. Just 0-5. So I should have actually stayed there and helped them do that Baron. I just backed, but I'm just so distracted by that dude talking that I should have stayed to help him out. But anyways, okay, so that's it. So you can see some team fighting and how that... I'm not going to be here for this one. I might... Hold on, I want to see. I might be able to show up and like throw a wave in there. This would be an example. No, they just kill them all. Okay. So that's going to be it. I believe... Let me pull this up. Yeah, that's going to be it for this video. So hopefully you learned how to play as Nami a little bit in there. Remember, the big thing is early healing, great chasing, and really good interactions with specific on-hit champions like Lucian, like Ezreal, who are very popular champions right now. So be sure to check all that out. If you're new to the channel, I can pull up my main page here. I've got a lot of other guides on the channel and lots of other content if you want to check it out. It's mostly support. I'm going to try to branch out and do a little bit more. But I have guides like this. So I have a Zyra guide, a Lulu guide, and a Janna guide. I'm going to have the Nami guide. I'll probably do Tom Kinch soon. I'm doing support coaching sessions. So for a $20 donation, I give you about anyone that's interested. It's about an hour-long session typically, and then I create a Google Doc, kind of like this one, where it just goes through your runes and masteries, what I think about them, recommendations, my initial thoughts on your game plan, what should happen according to the compositions on each team. Then I watch your replay, take a bunch of notes, and write down the best opportunities for your improvement. And then if you don't have any objections, then I like to post it up on the channel so that other people can also learn from your game. And people seem to really enjoy watching those coaching videos. So those are becoming pretty popular. Then I have all my past streams cataloged here. Now I've started doing this. I haven't done it with all of them. This takes a lot of time, but I'll see if I can do it on as many as I can. But on the past streams, I go through and I put through timestamps so you can see when a game starts and rune information for each game. So you can see the champions that I play. As you can see, last stream I played a lot of Janna. But that's not always the case. The stream before that, I played Thresh, Galio, Janna, Lulu, Janna, Galio, Soraka, Zyra, Janna. So still lots of Janna, but lots of other stuff as well. So check all those out. We have more topical guides as well. So if you want to know how to carry in solo queue, how to roam and ward, compositions and matchups, there's a lot of really good information here. And I'm going to do more topical guides as well here pretty soon. Then I have playlists. So if you just want to watch all Janna, all Nautilus, all Tom Kinch, got a ton of playlists here. You just click on it, starts with the newest, works its way back to the oldest, and it has rune information for all of those as well. Okay, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.